Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the wrestling podcast Getting Over, and it feels like it's been a while. And it has been a while, and that gets explained in this podcast. We are talking Survivor Series. Survivor Series used to be one of my favourites way back in the day. We've got all the predictions that you need to enjoy the upcoming pay-per-view, premium live event, whatever they're called these days. Survivor Series is coming this weekend, and you can use this podcast to help your enjoyment. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. The big one, if you've got a wrestling fan in your life, send them this podcast. They will absolutely thank you for it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast Getting Over.
Recording in progress.
Hello. Welcome along, everyone, to episode 59 of Getting Over, the home of all things wrestling and WWE on CookieCast. Now, if you're listening to us for the first time, thank you very much. If you're listening to us for the 59th time, thank you very much. If you're listening to us now, having listened to football, the darkest timeline, straight to the apex, thank you very much. You're all welcome back in, and we appreciate you being here. So you'll know that I'm not alone. If you're watching on the YouTubes, then you'll be able to see that already. Andy definitely isn't daft enough to trust his channel to just me on my own and run it into the ground. So Andy's here, the man that started it all, the CookieCast creator himself, alongside podcast regulars Mr. Matthew Moore and Mr. Paul Williams. Everybody's quiet so far, leaving me to it. Everyone all right?
Yeah. What?
Sure, shooting text.
Good. So we will start where we always start, or usually start, with the predictions title. Matt took the title in our last episode, prying it from the hands of Andy. And looking to make his first defence, Matt had laid out some solid predictions for Fastlane. This is how we go on. So, in joint fourth place, there was me, obviously, and Andy. So, unfortunately, Andy is not going to be taking that title back.
This is a disgrace.
What's this? A new challenger appears with a slight gingery haze about him. But Paul only managed 3, so Matt retains with 4. So well done. Matt got 4 out of a possible 5 points on that one. There wasn't a load of points up for grabs, granted, last time. And obviously it is a little while since we've been here because we skipped on the Saudi predictions, which we sometimes do, we sometimes don't, but this time it didn't fall right. But yeah, Matt was actually only let down by Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits losing to the LWO. So it wasn't like... It was probably fairly close. But yeah, 4 out of 5, so well done, Matt. The title is yours for another round of the podcast. But as I mentioned, we skipped out on Saudi, so because it's been a while, we probably need to bring everyone up to speed a little bit. So I've handily picked out the highlighted results just to make sure. So Roman Reigns is still the undisputed Universal Champion after defeating LA Knight. Rhea Ripley is still the Women's World Champion after returning in a fatal 5-way match, which I quite enjoyed, to be fair. Seth Rollins retained his World Heavyweight Championship against Drew McIntyre. Andy, you might want to cover your ears for this next one. Logan Paul won the United States title after beating WWE Hall of Famer Rey Mysterio. But probably the most shocking result was that Solo Sikoa defeated John Cena, and defeated him clean from memory. And following the match, Cena kind of teased a bit of a retirement angle. In the build-up to that one, it was all, I've not won in over a year. or whatever it was. No, however many years he said. But basically, you have to kind of be there to be able to have a chance of winning. So, there is always that.
It's like that thing in football where they're like, oh, such and such hasn't won at this ground for 35 years. They've not played there for 35 years, but they've not won there for 35 years either.
Yeah, it's I think the defeat obviously coincided with the end of the actors' strike, so chances are that Cena will probably go off into the distance for at least a little while, even if it could genuinely be the retirement. But I would have thought he would go out with a bit more of a bang when it's time. But it was announced as well during the Crown Jewel event that WWE Experience is to open in Saudi. It's going to open in Riyadh, which is obviously where most of the events have been held. Apparently it's set to be a new interactive experience featuring an array of shops, superstar appearances, memorabilia displays and more. I'm assuming that the appearances are only going to be when there's an event near hand or they're promoting an event, because otherwise that is a hell of a slog. There and back.
Yeah, but they could always just send someone who's, not being used at the time and just send them out there for 3 or 4 weeks or something like that as their assignment.
I suppose, but I mean, it's not. That can't be a fun journey either way. Even when they're doing it for the event, they always seem absolutely knackered when they get back to Raw as well the Monday after. But yeah, essentially it kind of sounds a bit more like a permanent or semi-permanent version of WrestleMania Access from back in the day, before WWE sold the autograph souls to Fitterman Sports. I do find it a bit of a strange choice of location. Not because of it, the whole Saudi thing, whatever. But yeah, obviously there's that. We can't get a physical Hall of Fame location in the United States, the home of the damn thing, but yet they can set effectively what is a smaller version of it up in Saudi.
Well, even was it the WWE restaurant cafe bar thing in was that in New York?
New York in Times Square.
Times Square.
It's it's Hard Rock is that now, is where that was now.
But obviously that couldn't last in a busy city which has a lot of tourists, of people that Bollywood might be interested in that kind of thing. And I presume it'll be one of them things where it's just going to sit there and not many people will go, but it'll be some kind of tax fiddle / there'll be some kind of thing to keep them going type thing. But yeah, it's a weird one.
If we're really lucky, it'll be one of those things where they had a 10-show deal and we're now however many in, and then that's classed as an extra one, so it's just one less pay-per-view to do, premium live event to do after that. I doubt that very much. But yeah, just a really strange sort of choice for me. I would have thought Orlando would have been the absolute sort of peak of that, tie it into the Performance Center kind of stuff. And yeah, anyway, by the by, we usually have some kind of hiring and firing to discuss, but this time it's a little bit more of a contract expiry and shock appearance kind of a deal. World famous MMA fighter and all-round internet troller extraordinaire Ronda Rousey recently let her WWE contract expire, with most people probably believing that was it for her wrestling, especially if they've actually seen her doing it. But that is until she turned up last week in Ring of Honor. She teamed up with Marina Shafir to take on Billy Starks and the current Ring of Honor Women's Champion Athena, better known to a WWE audience obviously as Ember Moon. Tony Khan has since confirmed that Ronda is not signed to a permanent deal, so who knows? Do we think we're going to see her again in Ring of Honor, or, obviously maybe even Vince's other company for Andy? We're going to see her over there again at any point soon.
I think, she'll probably pop up every now and again just to troll the WWE. She seems to have a big kind of issue, and Tony will make it worth her while just to stand behind her and stick two fingers up at the same time.
you reckon it's more a case of she's sort of doing it to keep her sort of active while she contemplates a switch back to the UFC?
She'll get her ass handed to her these days, will she? Surely.
Well,
and the other problem being with that the company that owns UFC also owns WWE now.
Very true.
Unless there's some kind of Bellator, PFL kind of thing, like she goes to the other MMA company there, whether they're bedfellows somehow. But yeah,
I kind of felt it was a bit more like Bridge Burney than anything else. Like,
yeah,
I understand why.
One last fuck you to them all, kind of thing.
I understand why she went to team with her mate, because obviously the Marina Shafir she teamed with was part of her original group of 4, wasn't she, from UFC? So I get that, but it just feels a bit like, yeah, I went on the internet, slagged off wrestling whilst I was still doing the wrestling, and now I've left the WWE. I'll still do the wrestling though, because it's still cool while I can still do it and make a little bit of money out of it. But yeah, I'll go back on the internet tomorrow and slag it all off again. Like, what?
It's like the ultimate. It is like the ultimate troll move as well, though. Because is there any more kind of marquee company than like AEW / and particularly the Ring of Honor side of it thing? It's like if you want your Mark Smart kind of wrestling fan, go there. And it's like the complete antithesis of, it's the thing that she's pushed back against, and also the antithesis of what she is. So yeah, it's kind of like a real kind of FU to everybody.
Well, I haven't got too much more on the new stuff, because not really much has happened other than the storyline stuff that we'll get into during the predictions arm. So we might as well get stuck straight into it, if that's all right with you guys, because there'll be a few talking points along this way. I'm very sure. So WWE does return to Chicago for this weekend's Survivor Series, emanating from the Allstate Arena. As usual for the podcast, all the match information is taken from WWE.com and is correct at the time of recording. If it changes, then yeah, it's not our fault. Currently got 5 matches on the slate. So we've got Carlito versus Santos Escobar, an intercontinental title match, Gunther defending against The Miz. We've got a women's world title match of Rhea Ripley defending against Zoe Stark. And then we have 2 War Games matches. So the men's match is Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins and Randy Orton versus the Judgment Day. So Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, Damian Priest and JD McDonough and Drew McIntyre. And the women's War Games match is Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Shotzi and Becky Lynch versus Damage Control, which is now Bayley, Kairi Sane, Asuka and Io Sky. So we'll wind that back to the first one and we'll get into Carlito versus Santos Escobar. With Rey Mysterio sidelined by injury, he's been out having some knee surgery, Carlito steps up to take on Santos Escobar. Now, you may remember that both of these guys were part of the LWO. Well, no longer. Following Rey's loss of the US title to Logan Paul at Crown Jewel, Carlito accused Escobar of costing Rey the match intentionally. Has anybody seen what happened at the end of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he took the brass knucks from. Did they ever explain who that guy was? Was he just Logan Paul's like hype man or something like that?
Just like some Logan Paul prime stooge.
Yeah, and it looked dodgy because obviously he takes them off him and then basically just happens to leave them on the side of the apron, and then runs after Mr. Hanger on extraordinaire, and then Logan Paul obviously gets him and uses him to win the match.
Yeah, exactly right. And then that obviously led to Carlito accusing him of doing it intentionally. And I mean, it wasn't exactly denied. Been as an enraged Escobar then went on and attacked the LWO. ending with a drop kick to the steel steps into the leg of Rey Mysterio, putting him out with the injury. So cue up the grudge match graphics, because it's time. Escobar is stepping out on his own, but will Carlito bring him back down with a bang at Survivor Series? I will go to Andy first. Andy, you can have the honours on this one. So, Carlito or Santos, and why?
I've got Santos down for this one.
Okay.
Just feels that's the way it's probably going to go.
Okay. Matt?
I've gone for Santos as well. I presume it's going to be like basically the Latin world order just falling apart, and the two guys that were in his little gang in NXT will just align themselves with him again. Some kind of thing. But yeah. So Santos for me.
Okay. Paul?
Strange on this one, because obviously you'd think that the idea of this is to build like Escobar as your new sort of sneaky heel to then take on Mysterio further down the line. But Carlito's literally just come back, and do they really want to be like beating him this soon after he's come back? So I think this could be our first dodgy happenings sort of match. So I would like to go for Carlito to win, but because Escobar gets disqualified.
Okay.
So I think it'll be like a chair shot or something like that causes it, or some sort of. Is there a, like, you know, they like to play up to the sort of the stereotypical foreign object, don't they? So it's like, you know, Finlay just had to have a shillelagh, and is there a stereotypical a pinata? There you go. They'll hit him with a pinata.
The event isn't taking place in Puerto Rico this time, Paul. You realise it? Is it actually?
I know, but Santos Escobar's Mexican.
It'll be with like a deep dish pizza or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to go for Santos. So that does leave Paul out on his own with that prediction. My reason behind it is very similar to Matt in the sense of it's his first sort of go on his own. And I get that Carlito's just come back from what Paul was saying, but he also had that moment in was it London he came back, or was it which event was it? He can't. My mind's just gone now. But he had that sort of returning hero kind of deal already at the end of a match. So I don't think he necessarily needs to win this time around. However, I'm going to go with Santos. I'm not sure, to take on what Matt said, I'm not sure that they're going to reform El Fantasma a la NXT, because there's rumours of them already bringing back up Humberto and
Hector Garza.
Yeah, well, Angel Garza as he is.
Angel Garza. It was fast lane that Carlito came back at.
Right, there we go. So it wasn't. Oh yes, it wasn't that long ago. Then it feels like it was longer ago than it was, but it's because we've had Saudi in between. So yeah, there's talk of him bringing back Humberto and Angel Garza as his sort of henchmen. Whether they will or not, we'll see. But there's definitely going to be shenanigans either from El Fantasma as was, or 2.0 as may be. So Santos for me. Paul may be hitting an early lead if he gets that DQ finish that he wants. Okay, so Intercontinental title match. First and foremost, this match should be a much bigger deal than it is. Gunther is the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time, which will be 531 days by the time that Survivor Series gets here. Miz has held the title 8 times, which makes him one reign away from tying the record held by Chris Jericho. We can actually, just because he works for the other guys now, but no, the record is 9 times held by Jericho. You would think that they would make a big deal of this, purely for that reason. If Miz was to get to the fabled 9th, I'm sure that the other guy would just not be mentioned until his AEW contract runs out and a Hall of Fame call comes. But I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. Miz did have to overcome the odds in a fatal four-way to become the number one contender, beating Ivar, Bronson Reed and Ricochet in the process. On the 30th of October, Gunther was a guest on Miz TV, which added a bit more fuel to the rivalry when the big Austrian left the host embarrassed on his own show. Can Miz tie the record this weekend and gain a measure of payback against the leader of Imperium? Or will Gunther march on? Matt, do you want to go first?
I've gone with Gunther. I just think they're going to stick with him for a while. Part of me feels like they're going to keep the title on him until like all the Roman Reigns stuff gets sorted out, and then he'll somehow end up like being shifted into a world title thing at some point. Also, I really enjoyed the video that he did the other week. I think, was it somewhere on WWE, kind of on the social media things, where he just sat there criticising all like the wrestlers from the 90s and just calling them body guys and stuff like that. I found that really, really amusing. Was it him and what's his name? I can't think.
Was it Vinci? Giovanni Vinci? Or was it Kaiser?
No. Kaiser. And they were obviously both sat there smirking the whole time. I found it really amusing.
I saw a lot of the fallout from that in the written form, in the sense of they instantly sensationalised it for the dirt sheets of Gunther slags off Ultimate Warrior, says he was the worst wrestler ever. Blah, blah, blah. It's like proper laid into it. I don't think he was the worst wrestler ever, but I mean, he maybe had a point for some of it, but it was fully in character though, wasn't it? Really?
Oh yeah. This is the thing where people are like, come on, it's blatantly the character and the thing that they, obviously Imperium and their kind of respect the mat kind of thing, and obviously it's the kind of thing just to wind a load of people up and shock horror, he's managed to get a load of people wound up over about something that probably doesn't matter.
Okay, I have put you in the book for Gunther. I'm in full agreement, so I've put mine in already. Same reasons. He's keeping it for a while yet. The Miz has only sort of, thanks to that fatal four-way, really recently featured back in a wrestling role. So it feels a bit more like he's just been fed to the beast at the moment. Andy's kind of nodding along, so we'll go to Andy next.
Yep, fully agree. Gunther to retain, and will keep it for a while. I think they're going to make the next run of this record a long one.
I think there's something in the background about he I think Pedro Morales is the next guy to. He's had it the longest, but I think it's something like cumulative days or something like that. So there is another record on the horizon. So that's got to be in there for my money, I reckon. Paul, have we given you enough ammo to agree?
You have those sort of like banker bets, don't you? And I'd say that surely the safest sort of bet, if you were going to bet on the rest at the moment, the safest one at the moment is to back a Gunther retain. I did see something where apparently I think Gunther's done an interview with Chris Van Vliet, and he said something like, honestly, when the Miz was WWE champion, that was the time that I chose to sort of stop watching WWE. And I was like, oh, even if he's just saying that in jest, that is definitely a shots fired. And if a couple of errant rounds just happen to sort of fall Gunther's way on Saturday evening, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's put it that way. But yes, Gunther to retain.
Okay.
I imagine it's geared up for him to maybe lose it at the Royal Rumble, and then obviously enter the match later on and potentially win the Royal Rumble.
He's not going to fight for the world title at Mania.
Well,
unless it's the one that's held by Rollins currently. Okay, right, we shall move along. Next one on the card, we have the women's world title. Rhea Ripley defending against Zoe Stark. Now, after shedding the title of Trish Stratus' protege, nothing really much has happened for Zoe Stark. Until now, that is. Zoe and Rhea clashed during the fatal 5-way at Crown Jewel, with Rhea Ripley even being hit by Stark's finisher, the Z360. Which, when she gets it right, does look pretty cool. It's like a bit of a fancy go-to-sleep almost, isn't it? It's quite cool. But yeah, following Crown Jewel, a number 1 contenders battle royal took place, with Stark earning her shot by becoming the last woman standing, eliminating Shayna Baszler to conclude the matchup. Can Stark hit the Z360 one more time on Rhea to end a historic title reign, or does Mami come out on top once again? Paul?
No, she can't.
As in, Mami doesn't come out on top, so you're predicting Zoe Stark?
I think you know that's not what I'm saying. You slide
That's what
out.
I heard.
I think and that's what we all heard.
Oh, I'm afraid I've got to take
Put me in the column for a Rhea Ripley retain, and let's move on, as that's what everyone's going to say. We can just get this portion of the podcast done and dusted, and we can all move on with our lives.
Okay. So, Andy, any doubt as to what you're picking as well?
Unfortunately, I agree with Paul's statement. I do believe that there are 4 answers. They're all the same, and they could have probably been put in the book days ago at this point.
You remember that previous thing that I said about one of the safest bets in WWE was a Gunther retain? Copy and paste.
I'm the same. I've also gone for Rhea Ripley. Matt?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, shocker. Man, I think that they've been at this stage now for a little while. I think it started to be highlighted by the Roman Reigns issue, but it was just previously the top of the card, and now it seems to be filtering down slightly, whereby they haven't got anybody ready to take over. There's only like a few people, and like obviously Jey Uso's been built for a little while now. LA Knight is really only kind of a fairly recent addition to that, but there's not really been anybody for me on like the slow burn to possibly attain.
I think they box themselves into a corner, box themselves into corners with things, because like if Rhea Ripley loses it, then the Judgment Day kind of loses a little bit of its thing. Seth Rollins losing the heavyweight title kind of renders it slightly pointless because he's lost it really quickly. Yeah, it's kind of all they kind of got themselves stuck in a position of they can't really move any titles. So then they're stuck kind of, what's going to happen each time round.
I think part of it falls down to this War Games thing coming up as well, because they feel like they have to shoehorn this in. And this year it probably didn't really make that much sense. It's particularly the women's one. There was no real reason to have it other than it's just there as the spectacle that has to be seen at the Survivor Series. They might have been better off going for just a normal series of matches, even if there was some sort of elimination match for the title rather than a War Games as such. That would have had that Survivor element to it. But yeah. Anyway, we digress slightly. We are all in the book for Rhea Ripley. So currently, only Paul has the potential to either be losing or absolutely winning with his Carlito prediction. Right, before we get stuck into the 2 War Games matches proper, we're just going to take a very small break. You're not. It'll just carry on for you, and you'll be right. You won't even notice a thing. So, hold fire, blink, and we will be right back.
Recording in progress.
See, we're back. You blinked. Here we are. Told you. That's how it works. It's all the magic of the podcast stuff that Andy sorts out for us. So yeah, we were just about to get stuck into the men's War Games match. So as I mentioned, it is Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Seth Rollins, and a returning Randall Keith versus the Judgment Day, made up of Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, Damian Priest, and JD McDonough, accompanied by Drew McIntyre. Now, obviously WWE announced 2 returns for this coming weekend. One was the War Games cages and the second ring, and more shockingly, the return of Randy Orton. The shock itself isn't necessarily the return as such for Randy Orton. It's just that it was announced so far ahead of the event. They decided to announce it on the Raw in the lead up to it. A bit of speculation as to why that happened. I can only surmise that the real reason that they announced it so early was to stop people going, "Oh my God, it's CM Punk! Oh, it's in Chicago! Oh my God, it's CM Punk!" And that's really the only reason I can think of. We all know how much they loved it when CM Punk left in 2014 under a huge cloud, and then the crowd continued to chant his name right up until after he debuted for AEW, almost 8 years later, or maybe a little bit longer than that. So anything they can do, but Randy Orton coming back has probably been on the cards a little while now. There's been like fan videos released of him training at the Performance Center and stuff, so we've known that the back injury wasn't going to keep him out forever. I did kind of think it'd be the Rumble, personally, and I suppose there is still that whole double bluff thing that he might not make it to this current weekend if he was to be mysteriously attacked in the back. They've also released a t-shirt and a hoodie though, so I'm guessing it is legit. Why wait till the day that he's actually seen on TV? No, let's crack out the merch nice and early. Says this guy. Yeah, but it's also no secret that Judgment Day have been all over WWE for months. Raw is obviously their main show, but they have been off to NXT. They've been on SmackDown. The brand split is starting to become a little bit hazy again, as it tends to do around Survivor Series time of year. But also Rollins, Rhodes and Zayn and obviously Jey Uso have been kind of a little bit here and there as well. But they've been on the receiving end of most of the Judgment Day beatings for the past, since WrestleMania, we're saying? It's been quite a while. This weekend, they will, however, finally get a chance for revenge. It is important to note as well that JD McDonough is now officially a member of the Judgment Day. Drew McIntyre is not an official member of the faction, but has had issues with Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso. He cost them the tag titles recently, and obviously had a losing effort against Seth Rollins at Crown Jewel for the World Heavyweight title. So he's got enough beef to lump him in with the heels as such. But with arguably 9 of the biggest names in WWE competing in this match, and JD McDonough, we're in probably for a reasonable effort all round. But which team are going to emerge from War Games with their hands raised? Paul, do you want to go first?
This is a bit of a strange one for me, because it kind of makes sense for the good guys to get the win. So I don't know what you're putting that down as, Team Cody, I suppose.
Yeah.
But do you sort of like start teasing the breakup of the Judgment Day? Obviously, for then Priest to go off on his own, take his briefcase, cash it in, and start a run as the world champion. I don't know. It's a weird one. I feel like there's it feels like there's still legs in the Judgment Day for as long as they need it to run for. But yeah, I just can't see the face team losing, especially if it's probably going to be that Orton gets the big sort of pop, the win.
They always have that thing with Orton as well, whether they never really know whether to make him heel or face. And for the fact that it's been the big return, I can't see that him being on the face team and then turning immediately. I think that's too much too soon. It'd be interesting because obviously there is no World Heavyweight title match. If the good guys effectively win, but then somehow there's a way that Seth Rollins ends up stuck in the cages on his own, and then they have this huge beatdown and the cash in. Because if Priest was to take the title between now and say the Rumble, that'd be a nice little start for 10 on his sort of advancement. I can't see him taking it into WrestleMania. Personally, I don't think he's that kind of level just yet.
I don't know. I would. You were saying earlier about the potential that obviously Reigns is like your undisputed top guy. Then you've maybe got like your person, like you sort of. Obviously, I know that Rollins is your other sort of world champion and stuff like you see like, on that level. So like Reigns is like on like this strange enough island of sort of like his own little sort of relevancy. And then you've got like your people who are sort of like Seth Rollins, Rhodes, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, people like that are at that sort of like secondary level. I don't think that Priest is far off that like secondary level, to be honest with you. And I think he's been pushed well enough that he's I think the fans will be happy to see him win the title when he actually does cash the briefcase in.
I think they'll be happy, but we were talking about the Rumble and about the fact that Gunther was mentioned as a potential winner, or like I can't see it being Priest versus Gunther at WrestleMania. I couldn't see it being Priest versus Gunther versus Roman Reigns. I think if Gunther is to win, it would have to be for that World Heavyweight title, and it probably would still be Seth Rollins if his back's up to it. But it might be an interesting wrinkle to this weekend if at least we get some sort of tease that it could get cashed in inside the cage, like the War Games cages, even if it ends up being a failed cash in, and then that's some kind of like fallout among the Judgment Day because it might be Balor's fault it's happened or something like that. That would be a nice little wrinkle to it. But so just to sum yours up, that you are definitely going for Team Cody, right?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Andy, what you got?
Just so I'm clear, there's a team that's got Randall, Keith, Orton on. I presume you've already put my pick down in the book, yeah?
Well, it's been a while, so I didn't know if you might have switched sides whilst he's been out sunning himself.
Absolutely.
Okay, that was a nice easy one then. So Team Cody for yourself. We might end up with a really, really, really similar set of predictions here. Matt?
I've kind of gone like loads of different ways with this, and then at one stage I was like, maybe it'll be Judgment Day and Randy will just turn on his team and then he's like the leader of this kind of like of the Judgment Day that's been kind of hanging around and not kind of thinking. And then I just looked at the Judgment Day team and I saw there's Dominic, and there's old JD McDonough. The pair of them just desperately sat there ready to eat that pin. so that the faces can win. Because I was like, who on that team of five is going to eat the pin in the loss? So I'm like, well, it's not going to be Cody because that's going to be wrong, and it's not going to be Randy because he's just come back, and you don't want to spoil Sammy's heat, and you got Seth. Well, he's the world heavyweight champion, and who else have we got? Jey Uso, and we're trying to build his heat. So yeah, look, there's Dominic, and there's JD just sat there trying to neatly take the pin, and that'll be that, and some kind of weird bump off something at some point. So yeah, Team Face or whatever we want to call them.
Yeah, I've got you down for Team Cody. Now, I could not have summed that up any better. I think to touch on what you said, if Judgment Day win, it will be Sami Zayn that loses for the good guys, without a shadow of a doubt. But you're absolutely right. Absolutely nailed it. If JD McDonough is not the losing fall in that match, I will be very surprised. Very, very surprised. He has been added to the Judgment Day for that exact reason, and maybe they might push it as he's swiftly ejected from the Judgment Day shortly after. Who knows? But I think Matt is bang on. But that does give us a clean slate across this one as well. So everybody is going for Team Cody. So still, going into the last prediction on the card, it's just Paul with one different. I don't know if this has ever happened to this extent before. I did wonder if this might happen. and that's why when I sent the match card through to you guys, I left the women's War Games match till last, because I think it's possibly the most unpredictable of the two. I'm saying that. We'll find out when we all then pick the same goddamn team in a minute. But yeah, the women's War Games match is the last one to predict for this podcast. And it's Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Shotzi and Becky Lynch versus Damage Control, who now consist of Bayley, Kairi Sane, Asuka and Io Sky. See, I also left this one until last, as it's probably the most catching up to do here. So firstly, Kairi Sane made a return at Crown Jewel and then turned up to help Io Sky retain her WWE Women's title against Bianca Belair. Bayley did look concerned when she saw Kairi Sane, because it was Bayley and Sasha Banks that sent Kairi packing from WWE back in the day. But on the following SmackDown, Kairi Sane did confirm that she was with Damage Control. And in a bigger twist, Asuka left Bianca and Charlotte high and dry during a 6-woman tag match to also join Damage Control. So Asuka's never really been part of a group ever. She's never been pushed as anybody who would need a group. She's obviously been tag team champion on occasion, but never really part of a bigger group. So it was a bit of an odd one, that, because they've aligned the 3 Japanese women on the SmackDown side of things, and I did kind of wonder if they'd just break off on their own. I guess that might still come down the line, but as it stands, Damage Control has grown in size. But yeah, to even the sides a little, Shotzi tried in vain to level the numbers, but all 3, so as in Charlotte, Bayley and Shotzi, were taken out, and then Bayley confirmed that they would meet inside War Games. However, this left Bianca, Shotzi and Charlotte one person short. Cue Becky Lynch. A really weird announcement of this on, I don't know if you guys had seen it on her Instagram, of her trying to fake type at a laptop whilst her mobile phone rang, and it said Charlotte on the screen. Clearly not her that rang. It was terrible. It was really badly done. But yeah, with the history between Flair and Lynch alone, that could lead to a potential flashpoint. Never mind the fight against Damage Control as is now. So there's a lot going on. Probably the most going on inside this match than any of the others on this particular card. So for the final time on this episode, who wins? I will go first, and I am going to go against my own rule and say Damage Control, purely because there is not a title involved. If there had been a title involved, clearly I'd have picked Charlotte Flair to win. Just with the recent additions and like the freshening up of Damage Control, it feels like they're sort of breathing new life into that at the moment. And whilst inevitably, like I mentioned earlier, it will lead to a huge angle of a split, now is not that time. They're just getting off the ground with the new members. So I think Damage Control will win. And in much the same way that Matt mentioned JD McDonough, Shotzi is JD McDonough in this particular match for me. So sorry, Shotzi, I do like you, but Damage Control for the win. Paul's got his hand up.
So there's a little like sort of saying of one of these things is not like the other. So Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, all great names. 4th member of the team then has to be equally as good a name, equally as big a name, equally as, you know, just with the history and, you know, the decorated nature. Or we could just put Shotzi in to definitely take the pin and you know, give the win to Damage Control. So we'll just do that, shall we, please? Thanks. Why is she in this match?
She's had more TV time recently though. She has been built up slightly. She had the whole thing against Bayley where Bayley cut her hair and then she shaved her head. So it has been. It's not like it's a new sort of. It's not just a last minute addition. It's just that she hasn't got the gravitas, like the history behind her that the rest of them in the match have got. Because even on the other side of the, like, you could say, I guess if you really wanted to, you could flip it on its head and say, well, Kairi Sane might be the person to
Nah,
take the
because
pin.
at least she's been a champion.
Yeah, but I think in her case, it's more of a she's just come back as well. This will be like her first kind of big event since the return.
Literally, Shotzi's the only one in this match that hasn't held the title. Literally.
I mean, there's Shotzi's fired by Mr. Williams there.
But
I'm sure she's a lovely person and stuff like that, but everything I've seen, she's just not a very talented wrestler. Sorry.
Can she take a pin, though? That's the question.
Andy's obviously seen her previous career. So, moving on. So, just to sum that up, Paul's going for damage control, yeah?
Certainly is.
So that's two for two. So, out of myself and Paul's full set of predictions, we will have a winner. Now, Andy, do you want to go next?
Yeah, it's going to be 3 of 3, I'm afraid, on that one, which I imagine is going to cause problems.
Okay, so what we need is that when you guys are watching Survivor Series, checking the results, whatever it might be, if you see that Carlito has not won the match against Santos Escobar, Paul, you need to find a tiebreaker for next time. We'll put that out there nice and early. Okay.
Or I'll let Matt do his pick, and then if it's needed, I'll give you a suggestion as to what you could have as the tiebreaker.
Okay. Matt, to round us out then for the predictions on episode 59, what you got?
Damage control.
Hey.
Yeah! War games!
This is the first time. Has to be. There is only one different. I can't remember a podcast in all the time we've been doing this where all the predictions have been the same for the four.
When you sent the card through, it's been the card that I did my predictions last night, and it took me less than 3 minutes because they did not require a whole lot of thinking about. It was the only slight to and fro was the men's War Games, and even then I was like, oh yeah, look at them two sat there just begging to eat the pin. So decision made kind of thing. It would have been 2 minutes if I hadn't had to think a little bit about the men.
See, I still think that the women's match has still got more to it. I think that we've all gone with a logical option because of the Shotzi pin situation. But like I said at the beginning, in the sort of the bit before, like Charlotte and Becky coming together that team could just implode. It could be something. It could be a fault of theirs as opposed to anything that Shotzi does, or Asuka kind of just joining in has been a little bit random. Maybe she might screw over the rest of the team because actually she'll be on, it's almost Kurt Angle alliance style in the sense of she's just recently joined and actually she's just doing it to be a bit of a sort of a shit-staring double agent, for want of a better expression. I still think there are lots more different ways they could go with this women's match, certainly than over the men's.
I mean, that Bayley could turn on because she could be suspicious.
From a symmetrical sort of point of view, it annoys me that there's 5 men on each team in the men's one and only 4 women on each team in the women's one. And that's another one of those things that just lends the sort of the gravitas behind this definitely wasn't really sort of just thrown together at the last minute because they felt they had to have a women's War Games match, was it?
I've seen some people on certain sites. Why have they done that? Why is it 4v4? Why is it not 5v5? Because surely Dakota Kai could get involved. I'm sure she'd love to if her ACL would actually last more than 2 minutes in its current state of rehab.
Well, to be fair, they could just have her and just have Tegan Knox on the other side, and I'm sure her knee will just implode at some point anyway. So.
There is still room on each team for one more in that respect. So who's to say that we won't get a surprise return in the women's match as well yet?
Yeah. Obviously, Nia Jax is just waiting in the wings to just injure someone. I mean, just compete this match.
The bomb off the top of the cage. No thanks. No thank you.
Yeah. So, as you've all picked the exact same, rather than having a tiebreaker at the start of the next one, let's put it in place now. So, obviously, Team Cody versus Team Judgment Day is going to be the main event, yeah?
Yeah.
Why don't you each predict how long the match will run for?
So how long the men's War Games match will be, just in case they throw it on early.
So, and to make it so, like, it's a little bit more tricky, you each have to do it in minutes and seconds. Because I think the likelihood of you each picking the same amount of minutes and seconds is very unlikely, whereas you might all pick the same roundabout figure in minutes, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Alright. Well, Paul, I was going to say you could pick, but actually, technically speaking, Matt's defending champion, so he could probably have the honour of going last if he wants to sneak a shithousey pick in between, but he's champion's advantage.
Well, I was going to say you will have to write them down and show them to the camera.
I don't have a pen and paper. I've only got the pad.
You can write on your phone.
Me neither. I've got a dog on my lap as well.
Right. Let's just go. Matt can go last because he has champion's advantage. I'll go first because I'm consistently the worst performer at predictions anyway, so I'm not bothered about that. I will go with, and I'm going to write this down as we go. I'm going to go with 47 minutes and 12 seconds. I think it'll be a long one. That's what she said. Andy?
She didn't say that. I've gone with a bit of symmetry for you.
Oh, okay. 33, all the threes. Okay, Matt, that gives you a good bit of scope to go higher, lower, or somewhere in between.
Or just slide yourself perfectly in the middle there at 40 minutes and some seconds.
Well, my first thing that came to mind was 37 minutes and 14 seconds.
Are you going with that?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Paul, you now can watch it and time it for us, yeah? Good lad. Right.
Well,
so...
what I was going to say was, probably should have thought this one through. What's the timings? Or have they announced it yet?
No, they did the match on Raw, didn't they, for the advantage, which was Drew McIntyre versus Jey Uso, which I think and Drew would won. So the Judgment Day will have the sort of the advantage going into the first bit, but I mean, don't count for anything, does it, when they get going?
The heel team will have the advantage. This is unbelievable.
It's never happened before.
I would have taken it. I know that officially the match doesn't start until the last person comes out of the cage, but I would take it as a segment. That's what I based my guess on. So, like, from the time that the first two start fighting.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm going to be timing for. I meant what I meant with the timings was how long are the intervals. So, like, is it going to be like 4 minutes, then the next person gets released, 4 minutes, so on and so forth? Because obviously because of the fact that you've got to get 8 people into the match, will have a massive knock-on effect on that.
Yeah, they haven't said anything about that. Plus, as well, we all know in the past that there's been like at least 3 minutes between each Royal Rumble entrant, which ended up being like...
I believe they refer to it as Titan time.
Yeah, exactly that. It'll be a set period of time between the participants entering the ring that'll be determined on the day depending on how well the running order has gone and who's jeffed it up halfway through. So yeah, so I would take them times as from when they first start fighting as opposed to the actual official bell, if that makes sense.
Bell.
Okay, so that's it. So we already have a tiebreak in throw as well. So we are all set. Has anybody got anything else wrestling related that we desperately need to get off our chest before we head off into the sunset?
Only thing I've got is just we don't really talk about AEW, but the timeless Tony Storm thing is just a fantastic character. And even if you don't watch AEW, go onto like Instagram and see the things that she does, because it's just great. It's one of the best characters in wrestling at the moment. It's absolutely brilliant. Like, everything that she's doing with it is fantastic. It's kind of got that gold dust kind of vibe to it, but then also it's really good. It's really good.
It's the whole, when she first started doing the watch for the shoe bit, everyone was like, and now it's become like a proper thing, and it is really funny. It's like one of them rare occasions where she's a good wrestler and she can pull off both like elements of it.
Yeah. It's I mean, obviously we've seen her a lot. We saw her a lot in kind of British wrestling, like Progress and stuff like that. And to see this character that she brought into it, it's just something I really enjoyed. And yeah, if you don't watch AEW, I'd go and watch that. I'd go and watch it for that. Or if you don't want to watch it, go and have a look on Instagram or social media and catch up on it, because it's really clever. Everybody
will be watching it all the time again in a few weeks when Danhausen gets back on TV properly.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with Matt. It is good. Go watch it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, on a similar sort of vein, obviously MJF's just hit the year mark as AEW champion, which obviously hadn't been done prior to that, so I thought that was quite cool.
Might have picked up an injury from what I was reading at last weekend's event, Full Gear. So
yeah, I saw
face as well.
Saw a clip of that. Did not look like a fun landing for him. Let's put it that way.
Needed Logan Paul there to save him, like Rey Mysterio. And if you don't know what I'm talking about with that, Logan Paul caught Rey Mysterio so he didn't drop him on his head in a match where Logan Paul was officially trying to drop him on his head, and then made a big song and dance about it afterwards. It's like, mate, wrestlers do that for each other all the time. Show your face. Blow your own trumpet somewhere else. Anyway, on that note, that is us. We are all done. All the predictions are locked in. Enjoy Survivor Series, and do all of the liking, sharing, subscribing, listening to The Darkest Timeline, the new episode of The Darkest Timeline with a special guest, no less. The Straight to the Apex podcast, the football podcast, the NFL podcast, all of it. Just you've got a lot. You've got a lot of time before Survivor Series starts. Just get it all in. Right. Cheers, everyone, and we shall see you next time.
So there we go. What do you think to that? Do you feel unprepared for Survivor Series now? I certainly do. I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Big thank you for watching. Big thank you for listening. Big thank you for being here. If I can preemptively thank you for a few more things, thank you for like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review, and check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. Send us your predictions. If you beat us, win a prize. Simple as that. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
How awesome is that? So awesome. You gotta like, share and subscribe.